Move to Impact deep dive into data implementation webinar. We wait more like 20 seconds for people to jump in because, well, we don't want anyone to miss all the nice stuff Eric and I have to tell you, but maybe I can always start introducing myself a bit. My name is Kesselaer, working at Move to Impact. I'm responsible for the data team, and Eric.
I'm Eric. I'm an Impact Project Manager at Move to Impact, and I'm one of our data experts.
So we thought we were the perfect duo to give you more information today. But before we dive into the wonderful world of data, we will first tell you a bit about who are we as a Move to Impact. And well, Move to Impact is a ESG reporting consultancy. What does it mean? We help organizations in preparing the sustainability reporting processes from beginning to the end. And we already started doing that way before the CSRD was more familiar or started. So we already have quite a lot of clients that we helped in specific parts in the preparation of the ESG sustainability reporting, is easier to say. And but we are a bit special, since normally consultants are more sustainability consultant or change consultant, but we are a combination of, well, multiple disciplines. So you can look at us as really as the combination between sustainability consulting and data consulting. But what makes us unique as well is that we have scalable tooling and programs so that organizations can also work on the sustainability reporting journey themselves. So we always say we create tools, structure, measurements, but you do the change process, because we can help you set up everything for the reporting process, sustainability analysis, but the real change has to, well, come from within the organization. Well, of course, we didn't think of all the methods and tools we set up just without any experience, because, well, we helped several big companies setting up. One of them is, for example, a Dutch flower group, where multiple like flowers and plant companies we helped in sustainability, materiality analysis and sustainability terms. And also, for example, a group of fashion companies, but we're also helping in the logistics, in the air traffic industry. So not just one specific sector, multiple. But what are we going to do today, Eric?
Yeah, so what is on the agenda for today? First of all, we will talk about a short introduction to CSRD. Then we will move to the role of data within the CSRD preparation process. What kind of data should you collect as an organization? And then we move on to continue with talking about decisions you have to make on where to store your data in the organization. Of course, you have to consider what risks come when you will be collecting data. And all this data collection and storage eventually has to have a purpose, of course, to steer on the sustainability data that you collect. So we will talk about that, how you can do that. Also, we, of course, think it is important that you decide on which responsibilities are where, who should do what in the whole data collection to reporting process. And we will round up with Move to Impact support options. Basically, what kind of consultancy can we provide? So in short, what is the CSRD? The CSRD is the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. It is a European directive, and it's mainly focusing on larger sized companies, where companies that have or that adhere to at least 2 of 3 criteria, which are 250 plus employees, 50 million in revenue per year, or they have on their balance sheet 25 million, they will have to report, they have to provide a sustainability report. And what else is important to know is that the CSRD replaces existing non-financial reporting, and that one of its main goals is that it should support you in achieving the Green Deal targets.
So this is not really a CSRD webinar. We're more talking about, okay, how are we going to use data in the whole CSRD process? But we first of all want to dive into, okay, which spaces do we see for an organization to prepare for the CSRD? We see that in the first phase, it's all about project preparation. So who is going to be on the team? Inform people that there is this new legislation coming that's really going to cause a transformation, as in people are used to report on financial targets, operational targets, but social targets, environmental targets, not every company is familiar with that. So inform them this is how we're going to do it the upcoming decades, forever. Then we dive into analyzing, okay, how is the company like currently doing? What is the company already reporting on? As in which data is already collected, which reports are already there, to really already get a grip on what's the current reporting situation of the organization. Because then you dive into the double materiality analysis, which is an analysis to identify which sustainability topics on environmental, social, and governance level are applicable for the organization, as in where does the organization has impact on planet and society, and what kind of impact does planet and society have on the organization itself. A lot of topics will come out, and these will also refer to the ESRS, which is the European Sustainability Reporting Standards. These are, well, we call them books. These are books that are filled with how should you report on climate change, for example, biodiversity laws, but also on the workers in your value chain, or is there any bribery or corruption in your organization or in your value chain? I think not in your organization. Hopefully not. So if you know, like, okay, which reporting standards to use, then we really dive into the connecting KPIs and measurement phase. This is all about doing a gap analysis of what's already been reported on in the organization, what came out of the materiality analysis and the European Sustainability Reporting Standards, and what needs to be done in order to eventually work towards that CSRD report at the end. So by setting up working groups, really think about how to collect the data, it's time to really start collecting the data. And this is not just a one-time project. This needs to be done from today on, or maybe tomorrow on. So it's also important to think about, okay, what kind of administration processes are we going to set up? Maybe we can do a bit of an automation. Well, like Eric already said in the introduction, it's also important to really steer on the sustainability data. So then it's time to think about an impact dashboard. We will show you later the option that we will develop for our clients there, but really create an interactive report for the management team to give them also steering information on the sustainability KPIs that are important, to eventually have this annual sustainability report that will be part of your audit, like next to the financial. So this is the whole journey a CSRD company will go through. And it's not just a 1 month journey, it will take at least like a year, 1.5 years. So if you look at the timeline when organizations have to really publish the report, it's we always advise you to start yesterday. But those 8 phases can be divided up in, well, high-level phases, where in the beginning it's more about the design phase, as in really looking at what will the report eventually contain. Then about the implementation phase, as in, okay, how are we really going to fill up this report? And eventually it's about reporting the data that you already have. So as you can see, there are quite a few steps.
Yeah, and in the beginning, it's more really about setting up or really talking about sustainability in the company, like from the materiality analysis, you get insights into which risks and opportunities on the sustainability level there are. And at the later end of the process, you will see that more the data will get involved, and that comes a more important part of this process steps. So what kind of data should a company then collect? I already mentioned it before, the materiality analysis. Actually, from that, you will set up some risk mitigation plans, and there will be some indicators there that you can set up from which you can measure your progress. And there, of course, you have to collect some data on those. And then the main part actually of course, the CSRD is the ESRS reporting requirements that you will derive from your materiality analysis, and those actually determine what data the company then should collect. So for example, if it turns out on your materiality analysis that you have material topic on E2, so which is pollution in relation to water, air, and soil, you will find that you will have to report specific data points in relation to the use of microplastics that you use, or for example, substances of concern which are present in your organization, those that you either use in your production or that you buy. So yeah, those are like data points that you would have collected to collect.
Yeah, what's also that a lot of companies ask us, okay, can you give me in advance all the data points and what kind of data? And well, we really have to wait for the materiality analysis results to, well, be a bit more precise on that. And furthermore, it's also, well, taking the pollution, like some organizations do have something to do with air pollutions, others don't. So it really depends on the organization. And also maybe talking about soil pollution, it can be that you're like with the agricultural industry, but also the fashion industry has, of course, to do with cotton, but that doesn't really look like the food industry, but also has to do with soil pollution. So every organization may have the same ESRS as in reporting standards, but they're still reporting on other things. So it's really important to get advice and also look into, okay, what are the specific data points that are, well, relevant for our company. And it's just diving into it, really being aware of the impact, and then we know we can at least help you to identify. Yeah, but it's not known upfront.
So where should you actually store this sustainability data once you have it available? Actually, that should be made really clear within the organization, of course. Where are you going to store this data? This can be in Excel, or which is not the preferred option, of course, to work only in Excel, especially when for the CSRD you would prefer to eventually work towards automated reporting. But in general, we see that, of course, in general systems, a lot of data can be captured. You can use it's not that you can use it, but it's mainly stored in systems like SAP data currently within organizations, or like an ERP system, or like a lifecycle management system. There you can store data. But also you have to keep in mind, of course, with this that, well, there is a growing size of KPIs and therefore data points which you will have to collect. And what is eventually really what we also advise is that you use a system that makes it easy to bring the data together at the end of the year. And also there are several ESG software reportings or software systems where you can report sustainability data in, one of which is, for example, Precision Green. These are also really nice solutions to use.
Yeah, because what we currently see is that a lot of financial systems are also working on ESG, so an environmental social governance module. But the most important thing is it doesn't really matter where you store it, at least that it's clear where to store it, and that's the disadvantage with Excel. Everybody can have their own Excels on the local folders, and how to make sure that at the end of the year it's like a fluent process to bring it all together, instead of having to do a lot of manual work in order to make the final reporting. And what you also see is a lot of CSRD companies don't have a simple organizational structure. They have multiple sub-organizations, and eventually they have to report in the consolidated group. And if you don't have everything in Excel, it will take quite a lot to combine all those data points together in such a way that you can easily sum it up for the final results. So therefore, we really advise, although it may feel like, okay, we're already doing the sustainability reporting process, and we also need to invest in a sustainability data collection data tool. But we do advise to spend a bit of time to look into those tools, because it will reduce the amount of time that it will take to eventually create the final report. Next to that risk, there are a lot of other risks in the data collection process. Since in finance, everybody is pretty aware of what's a euro and when it's a cost or a revenue, but in sustainability data, it's really hard to always get like the exact number that you ask for. So what you see is that there's a lot of inconsistency in the data collection standards, and if you're going to ask multiple people within the organizations to ask data from suppliers, maybe partially also from the suppliers, you need to be really clear on what kind of data you want. So when you're not really, precise on the data definition, so how you want it, it may be the case that you eventually get back a lot of data in different formats that you cannot really use for your report. Furthermore, lack of context, as in if I'm just asking you, hey, how much waste did we throw away last month? You might be, well, it was not that much. Why? But if it's like, hey, we're starting this report on our waste management, we need to report monthly. This will be something that we start today, and we'll eventually keep on doing that for like the upcoming time. Can you please provide me the waste that we like our waste from last month? That gives a bit of more context to the conversation, and then people also are more aware of the need for precise data, since this data will eventually be audited by the auditor, and he or she will also ask, like, how did you get this data, and where did you get it from, and can I trust the number that you're giving me right now? So yeah, that's that for the context is really needed to really make people aware that is not just a random question, but that you really need it for reporting purposes. Furthermore, what you see is that data collection is not prioritized as a core business function. It's always the next to the operational job activity, and if people don't make it important, we'll be like, oh yeah, we'll do it later. But if you're doing the monthly reporting or the quarterly reporting and all the data is late or not really precise, it will still feel like a bigger add-on into the normal activity. So that's why we also advise to automate as much as possible, because you don't want to increase the administrative workload from your co-workers or employees. Furthermore, don't underestimate the complexity of data collection. It's not just about, oh yeah, we can just send the survey to our suppliers, because, well, it needs to be thought of, okay, which questions need to be in there, because you cannot send them like 5 or 6 surveys in a row. So, okay, what kind of data do we need from which stakeholder type? What kind of data do we want back? Do we want a number? Do we want text? Are we giving them multiple choice options? Yes or no? So those questions need to be answered in advance, and you need to think about it, and that is just not a one-person job. So a lot of people will be included in the data collection process, and they all need to understand the why, the what, the how. So it's quite a project on itself to start the data collection and eventually have the data collection, have the data collected, and then start to report on it. So it's really like 3 different phases. Especially because, like what I said, it's also the process needs to be documented, as in you cannot, an auditor cannot really depend on you saying, well, I got it from the supplier and I think it will be fine. It's more as in, okay, but did you give them, like, what did you ask them? Is it the right person you asked? Like, that they can really check which steps did you take in order to get that 40 kilo of waste. As it's not just something I thought of which steps did I take. So write down those steps as well. And if those steps aren't written down, it's hard to explain how did you get towards the data. It's also hard to replicate like the next year, since this CSRD is not just for 1 year, it's here to stay. So you next year you have to do the same data collection reporting again. And if you then use a different method, maybe you'll get different numbers. And then your trend, as in like last year we did 40, this year we did 50. But if you like ask other questions, ask other people, did the measurement in a completely different way, then you cannot compare those numbers, except for if you say like, hey, we asked these questions the same as last year with the same data definition, then those can be comparable. And it's just a lot that I'm saying now just on one slide, but can you imagine that there are like people hearing, okay, I need to collect data and oh, it's important, and they didn't tell me where to put it, and they told me it's important to think about data definitions, but I don't know about air pollution, and I have to collect air pollution. So there are a lot of questions coming up in this process. So it's really important to train them and to make them feel more comfortable with the whole data collection process, and also with the need for it, but also think in advance with your data and IT team, how are we going to support the working group, since we are going to ask them to collect data, but they will also have questions that they cannot ask their suppliers, they have to ask us. So this training is maybe a bit underestimated, but it's very important for the quality of your data collection. Like we said, nice to collect all the data, but how are you going to steer on them eventually? So I kind of want to dive into an impact dashboard that we created. Yeah. And what you see here is, well, just a demo of an interactive dashboard. But what's important is that part of the CSRD says that the management team needs to prove that they also take sustainability into account in decision making. So our solution for that is an interactive impact dashboard, where together with the organization, we go sit down and say which KPIs are important for your organization. And that can be the topics that came out of the materiality analysis, or maybe topics that came out of the European Sustainability Reporting reporting standards. And like, hey, these ones, we think those are important. That's nice and visual. That's not something that's obligatory by law, but what we think is that it's important to really make a story around data, since, well, we like those graphs, but some of our colleagues are, when they see a lot of graphs, are like, hey, but what am I looking at? So to really use visuals to tell the story as an, okay, we as a company, we think it's important that we make like that it feels like teamwork, that everybody's happy, but also the environment. We really want to look at circularity and sustainable packaging, for example. I don't know. But then those KPIs can come back in the KPIs that are proven with data. What we think is important is that financial, social, and environmental data should be made equally important in your reporting, because if we don't put them next to each other, we will never be able to make decisions based on them combined. Well, then I'm gonna dive into some dashboarding reports, because we just want to show you that these KPIs that are on there are not the ones as in, hey, this is the dashboard that you'll always get, but it's more as in, okay, what is important for your company? Maybe like profit-wise, the sales and the top clients want to look into, but what are like environmental KPIs? Well, that could be the CO2 emission, but also, did you assess the environmental impact of your suppliers? If that's one of the material topics that came out, as in, okay, it's really important to have environmentally sustainable suppliers, we need to steer on that. So just by showing in the dashboard the amount of suppliers that are positive or like are assessed, then it can be something that the management team says, operational managers, I see 44% is not of the suppliers not assessed yet. We need to work on that. So it really gives them the tools to also steer the organization on the sustainability matters. And it can be combined with everything as an energy, you name it, whatever is material for your organization. The same with environmental and social data. As long as you combine KPIs and put them together to well, make it visible so that there's the possibility to start steering on the sustainability KPIs. So
yeah, so and of course in all this process of data collection to the eventual reporting, it is very important that you define the responsibilities. For example, on data collection, if we were to bake a cake together and we don't decide who will buy the ingredients, then it will not be possible to bake this cake. Also, the same applies, of course, for defining who will be responsible for data quality, but also for data storage and processing. And what we also would really advise is to look at, like, if you collect the data for the first time in the CSRD process, it may be part of the project, but then of course you have to collect the data on an annual basis from that moment going forward. So it's really important to also think about, like, how are we going to do the annual data collection, preferably in an automated manner.
yeah, what we really experience with clients is that in the beginning, it's like, well, this is a sustainability regulation, so it's obvious the sustainability manager is responsible for this. However, data collection processes, data quality, data storage, this is not the regular sustainability manager job. However, the data department is often saying, yeah, but we are just there to facilitate, but then the working groups or like people within the organization need to collect data. It are a lot of people working together for the first time and with reporting standards that they may not totally understand, and what do you want me to do? And so having responsibilities to divide them, but making everybody very clear of, okay, you're responsible for taking care of that that data collection tool, that it's there and that people know where to store it. Okay, you are responsible for collecting the data, setting up the survey questions, making sure that it's there. Data quality, well, maybe only the sustainability manager can assess, well, this doesn't really sound like 40 kilo waste last month is okay because I know already that A, B, C, D, E, so this data doesn't make sense. Like, everybody has their own specific knowledge that's put together, but it needs to be clear, like, where are the responsibilities divided? What you often also see is within the management team, this is not every company has a chief sustainability officer yet. The CFO is a bit like, yeah, well, it's reporting, so it's my responsibility, maybe because the auditor will look at it, but I don't know, to be honest, as well, about like the waste and the water and about the suppliers' social investment. Like, it's also new for him. So who is going to take the responsibility? Maybe people are looking around. So although it may seem like, oh, it'll just assign responsibilities, we see that this is one of the biggest hurdles and also causing the biggest delay in projects, because somebody needs to really start pushing this project. And if nobody feels responsible for it, it will be hard to collect data without storage and without people to collect. So then there will be no cake. So, I didn't really see questions in the chat yet. Please feel free to post them there, then we can answer them after this slide, because what I want to tell you is how can we as Move to Impact support your company related to our data consulting services. Because next to our data consulting services, we help organizations in the materiality analysis, in the whole CSRD process. We even have tools to do it yourself, so you don't need a consultant at all. But if you're like, hey, I want some consulting on the data related topics, well, we provide data consulting workshops where we present things that needs to be there, and we can make a presentation. But we also just have open deep dive sessions to really discuss, okay, what's the current IT infrastructure in your organization and what to expect with the ESRS coming up, to give a bit more confidence to the IT team, as in what to think about and maybe how they can prepare for this CSRD. Furthermore, well, we showed you the impact dashboard. a bit of a demo. We can sit together with your management team, as in what are the sustainability KPIs that you want to steer on and how to visualize it in a data-driven way in a dashboard. If you want a nice visual, we put a nice visual to it as well. And furthermore, well, you heard us talk a lot about European sustainability reporting standards, data definitions, and we have like reporting templates so that it's not just about, well, okay, I have this reporting requirements, but how to report them. We have reporting templates, but we also have data definition manuals where we really looked at each user as, okay, what are the data points? What's the data definition of the data point? And what are survey questions related to that? Because those working groups that need to collect data, they really need to look around as in, okay, what questions to add? Well, we thought of those questions, so well, stop thinking about them. We already did the thinking for you. Furthermore, well, then we came to the end. If you could, well, use your camera, phone, and go to this link to give us feedback on the webinar, that would be very nice, since, well, we also continuously want to improve ourselves, so we want to do that in a data-driven way as well. And then I think it's time for your questions. No questions. Well, then apparently everything was clear. Then we want to thank you for your attention. If you ever feel like having a demo from one of our tools or want to chat further, go to our website, contact us, and we want to thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.